Hello, everybody. This should be on the air now. This is the SEO Friday show with Barry, Schwartz, and Josh Bachynski. I'm Josh. That's Barry. Say hi, Barry.
Hi, Barry.
The SEO Friday show on Wednesday, I don't know why it's called that, it just is where we debate and discuss the efficacy and ethics of SEO in general and Google in particular. And just a fair warning, we're going to pull no punches. This is not ye olde political correct SEO show. Not that we're going to be rude on purpose, heaven forbid, but we're not going to pull any punches. And we may have special guests from week to week, from time to time, depending on who can convince and or coerce to come debate ethics and SEO with us. But you should know that before we get started, that none of the views expressed by either Barry and or myself may accurately reflect the views of the person. So we're going to play devil's advocate, and we may advocate for stuff that we normally wouldn't advocate for, or we may disagree with stuff that normally we'd agree with. So.
Right, exactly. So just to be clear, I'm very, very sarcastic, so are you, so we felt it would be pretty funny. Either if we do believe or not believe on something, we're going to talk about it and try to make it somewhat funny by, I guess, playing devil's advocate. So just again, what we're saying, again, just to be clear, might just be a joke, might just be some sarcastic humor. So we'll see how it goes, and if people like it, great. If not, we can stop doing it.
Yeah, but that's completely wrong, and Barry, you're completely wrong too. Wrong.
I don't think I've ever been wrong, so.
Whoa.
Ask my wife.
You ask your wife? I'm sure she'll tell me you've been wrong once or twice. Okay, so on today's SEO Friday show on Wednesday, what I'd like to talk about is just a little issue, and it's that Google is one of the most immoral companies in the entire world today. Just a small little issue I want to talk about. So, and I have a few issues I want to bring up. One, the immorality of hypocrisy that Google knows only too well. Two, the immorality of crowdsourcing that Google does to us. Three, the immorality of scraping our data. And finally, four, the immorality of misinformation and fear-mongering. This is what I'd like to talk about. So, Barry, unless you have something else you want to bring up right away, I'd like to dive right into the immorality of hypocrisy.
Go for it.
All right. Okay, so there's the European Union antitrust case against Google going on, right? And I think it's very interesting because if you consider it, essentially, the EU has slapped Google with a manual penalty, but Google refuses to clean up their site. That is essentially what is going on, right? If you looked up the definition of irony in Google Knowledge Panel, it should just be a Google logo is what should come up, right? That should be the definition of irony. What do you have to say about that?
Maybe you should explain to the audience what the EU is upset about specifically. This way.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't care. I'm just here to make snide remarks against Google. Really, is fun. But you would know more about it. You say what it's about.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you're trying to step back. So you're saying Google's a hypocrite, right? Because of what exactly?
I'm just making sarcastic comments. Well, yeah, it is a little hypocritical for Google to give webmasters manual penalties on their website and demand that they clean them up and take the high moral road and the high moral position that you should be better, you should be white hat, and make them clean it up, when Google won't do the exact same thing. When a higher authority, heaven forbid, than Google, namely one of the major governments in the world, slaps Google with a manual penalty. See, this crap rolls downhill, right? The European Union slaps Google with a manual penalty, says your site is no good, it's spammy, it's whatever. It's enter subjective negative remark here, right, that either the EU uses and or Google uses, and slaps Google with a penalty. And so what Google should do to remain consistent is go, yes, sir, you've given us a manual penalty, right, or that's the metaphor, and we'll clean it up right away. We'll clean up our website. We'll be in compliance with your guidelines right away. Is that what Google did? No. They got their team of like a million lawyers to find every sneaky little way they can get around it and refuse to clean up their website the way that the duly representative ruling body has told them to do so. I find it completely hypocritical.
Right. So, I mean, there's lots of things going on with Google in the EU. I mean, one of the more recent things is specifically around, I guess, vertical search engines. I guess what you're talking about, where they're not giving their fair share of credit to vertical search engines.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Google would be like, it's our search engine. Let us do what we want. We think the best user experience is by delivering either Yelp or delivering our own version of Google Local, which we're now calling Google Plus Local or something. Google
Business?
Business something. I don't know. Whatever. They're all constantly changing names.
Places Plus Local?
Yeah, whatever it might be. That is in itself, the point that Google has changed their local property about the name and the branding and the functionality of it maybe 10 plus times in the past 6 years shows to us that they are probably not the best local experience for users. So I would guess, yeah, you're right. It's unethical and immoral of Google to not show the Yelp results or a vertical search engine that is probably better than Google, because Google, by changing their name and functionality constantly over and over again, are basically admitting they are failing at Google local results in a very interesting way. So maybe you're right on that. Maybe
Did you just say maybe I'm right on something? Wow.
I'm not saying I'm wrong.
This whole process was worth it just for me to hear you say that. I'm done. Okay, good. I can die happy now. I'm right.
No, but at the same time, Google is trying to comply with the EU's ruling. They actually had a plan in place that the EU supposedly agreed to, and now it seems like certain people who are lobbying behind it have managed to kill it, either by showing people certain money. In the EU, I believe, I could be completely wrong, I'm not involved in the EU and government politics and stuff like that, but I believe there is a lot of money going around, a lot of corruption. That stuff doesn't happen in Canada. You have nobody doing any corruption or taking money for anything. But I think in the EU there is some of that.
No mayors of Toronto are corrupt in any way, shape, or form. Our Prime Minister certainly isn't corrupt in any way, shape, or form, although he does eat cats. Any Canadians will get that joke that he eats cats, but never mind. Anyway,
but I would think that governments are probably less trustworthy, in my opinion, than Google. In my opinion, I would trust Google with my data more than I would trust the U.S. government or the European Union or whatever it might be. So.
Well, both of them have it, so they already have your data. All those bodies have your data.
Person.
All right. Okay. Well, moving on then. So now I want to talk about the immorality of crowdsourcing. So this whole authorship snippet thing came up recently, where Google, for those of you who don't know, Google had an authorship HTML markup you could put in your page that also connected your authorship entity, if you will, to your Google Plus profile, or I believe you could use any other kind of author bio as well, I believe, although Google Plus is the one everyone used. And then Google would show up your face in the search results sometimes when people would do searches for your articles that you have the authorship snippet on. Now, they've recently removed that. I think that they were using that much in the way that I think they use the disavow tool, in that they were just machine learning. Largely, what factors is they want to machine learn so they can do all this kind of stuff automatically. In the case of the disavow file, removing bad or spammy links, vis-a-vis, those are thinly veiled euphemisms just to mean links that mess up their linking algorithms that they wrote, and that's the way they wrote it, and so there's links that can mess up their linking algorithms. Of course, they could have written algorithms that were unmess-upable or less mess-upable, which they have retroactively done now.
That's not possible.
It's more possible. It's not impossible.
I would say it's impossible to write a perfect algorithm.
I don't think that's the case, but okay. So in the case of authorship snippets.
So hold on. You were, or you might classify yourself as more of a gray or black hat SEO type, right?
Not particularly.
You've been in spaces in certain industries that might be competing in what we'll call the black hat space on web?
I have occasionally talked with these people. Occasionally I get customers who might have done those kinds of things. And of course, being the good white hat SEO that I am, I try and move them towards the light of creative marketing and more white hat-ish kinds of things.
If Google came out with the perfect algorithm to prevent people that you've talked to do their tactics to go ahead and rank very well, would you, being a really smart person and from Canada, not from Toronto, but from Canada, be able to figure it out and get you the sites or your clients to where they need to be to actually make money?
Of course, but that would be no different than any white hat SEO. Every SEO, every single one exploits Google's algorithms. That's what we do. That's our job, is to exploit Google's algorithms. The only difference is some exploit them in the way that Google condone, and some don't. That's the only difference.
So you don't exploit it in a way that Google doesn't condone?
I try not to exploit any algorithm in a way that Google does not condone, or at least cannot detect.
So, okay, fine. Let's say there was a person out there, not saying you, that could detect the weakness in the algorithm.
Sure.
If there was a perfect algorithm, would you be able to find, you wouldn't be able to find a weakness in the algorithm?
Well, now we're mixing our metaphors, right? The difference between the word exploit and the difference between the word weakness. You can
do that. It makes it easy.
It does, yeah. You can exploit a perfect algorithm. I think, okay, human beings are imperfect, so obviously there's going to be a level of error in anything that any human being makes. However, that being said, my only point about the linking algorithms were the only reason why they're so easily manipulatable is because Google originally made them that way and published the PageRank algorithm so that we would manipulate the algorithm so that it could use that linking information, that semantic information, to tell us what the page was about. Because they were incapable of being able to determine that with any kind of specificity on-page algorithm to begin with. Now they have much more complex and much more nuanced algorithms and much better ways of determining what any given page is about. And they don't have to rely on backlinks to tell us what a page is about so much. They still do to some degree. And as Matt Cutts recently admitted, when they tried to remove the linking algorithm altogether, it all went to hell and the rankings looked terrible.
Wait, so you're saying their intent by releasing the PageRank algorithm was so that webmasters could specifically exploit it?
Of course. Why else release it?
They released it way back when. How many years? Like, that was more of an academic thing, no?
I mean, true, yeah, but it's still they definitely didn't get in the way of it becoming mainstream knowledge. And
how could you get in the way of a patent? How could you get in the way of that? Once it's published, it's published.
Well, they get in the way of quite a lot of things. I mean, they definitely helped proliferate that information, I would say, about how PageRank works. And there was lots of Google-sponsored videos and posts about how you should make links and what the anchor text should be, and they should be descriptive links and blah, 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 stuff like that. So, I mean, and they advocated us doing that because that gave them more grist for the mill. That gave them more information that they could look at to say what each page was about. Otherwise, all they had was the same thing every other text scraping search engine had, was to read the page and see what was on it and see, you know, boobs, boobs, boobs stuffed in there a bunch of times and think the page was about boobs. They needed that other information to verify the former information. And now they're using this information to verify this information to verify this information to verify that information.
So the Google founders did, I think, go on record initially, early on in the days, saying that their search engine is unspammable. They actually thought that and believed that. Well, obviously now in hindsight, yeah, 15 years later, but I'm just saying, if that was their true intention, that it was unspammable, then them releasing that patent paper back then, I don't think they had the intent of having webmasters or marketers trying to manipulate the search results, because their belief, even though it was wrong, was that their search engine is not spammable. Because all the spam back then was purely text spam. It wasn't link spam. And I guess that's why I thought they'd be smarter than that, but I guess they didn't figure people would actually manipulate the links.
Well, of course, but my point is that they wanted people to manipulate the links.
My point is they're not.
People manipulating the links. They wanted to read the links people make to tell what a page is about, so they could bring more semantic context to their search engine.
Well,
So
back then, they were very secretive. Nobody knew necessarily. They weren't. Documentation was very limited. Matt Cutts was going on their Google guy trying to blast away myths and stuff like that. They weren't revealing anything. Now that they're revealing everything, or tons of things, not everything. I don't know if you saw what Bing posted yet last night, but basically they're actually documenting a tremendous amount of stuff, and the more they document, the more they're losing out by people like us who are complaining that, okay, so you're telling us X, but what about Y? And we're complaining more and more. The more they give us, the more we want. So it's like a lose. They can't win. It's like there's no win-win situation with them. Previously, we hated them because they weren't being transparent. Now they're being incredibly transparent, but not being transparent enough. Sometimes they're being way too transparent. We say, hey, that's not a fair algorithm because it's doing X, Y, and Z. It's immoral. So what do you want them to do? Write the perfect algorithm?
Yes. Yes, I do. I want them to write their algorithms in a way that they don't commit any immoral or unethical actions.
And that's why you believe Matt Cutts...
I want them to do what they tell us to do. Make their website the best possible website for their users they can, and don't go out of their way to negative SEO other people, which is what they do. The biggest negative SEO company online is Google. All they have to do is press that manual penalty button, and any second-class citizen that they don't believe belongs on the internet is no longer there.
So question for you, do you think they are capable of writing the perfect algorithm?
Now, as I said, absolutely perfect, no. Could they do a lot better? For sure, of course they could.
You think they're purposely not trying to do better?
Yes. Yes, of course.
Why?
That's why I asked John Mueller that question. Is it hypothetically possible for you guys to run a positive version of Penguin just to release the people who have done the due diligence of their own time and money to try and save their business that Google almost destroyed? Is it possible for you to run an algorithm that will at least release those poor people who've been waiting for a freaking year for this algorithm to come back? And he said no. Of course it's hypothetically possible. They have $40 billion of profit a year, and they have hundreds of brilliant PhD programmers. You have to admit, Mr. Schwartz, that it is hypothetically possible that they could write that. His answer was no. Essentially, his answer was, we don't want to do that. We want to keep those sites down. The Penguin algorithm is working perfectly. We want to keep them down forever. We don't want them coming back. We don't want them to come back. They're not the Catholic Church. They don't believe in any forgiveness.
I don't know if I believe they really do not want sites that have fixed their issues or whatever the issues are around Penguin. Let's say it's bad links, whatever. I don't think their intention, I don't think there's somebody in the room scratching their head. This website was really bad, and I don't want them ever to come back. And all these websites that were impacted by Penguin, they should never ever come back. I don't believe that. You do, I guess. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you're just being sarcastic or devil's advocate.
Like I said, you can never know in this SEO debate. The crazy SEO Friday show, which is on Wednesday, you can never know if anything that I say or you say is our actual position or what we hold. Some people might believe,
especially
because I have said that in other places, but you never know. It might not be my position, and my face gets all red, and I get all angry, and I start swearing. But you never know. I might not actually believe what I said there. You never know.
So you think then they'll never release an updated Penguin algorithm refresh?
I think the only reason why they're going to now is because we've been complaining so much. We've been complaining, tons and tons and tons, and I don't think John Mueller is the kind of guy who would lie directly to our faces consistently like that and earnestly like that. I can always tell when John Mueller is lying. He doesn't play poker very well, and he always gives a prefab, canned answer, the same one that everyone else gives. And so you can always tell, okay, there's where the public relations guy said, okay, say this. Do not deviate from this script.
So, okay. So they probably will only because we're pressuring them, you think. But what about...
Yeah. I mean, that's the impression I got from Matt Cutts when I had a private conversation with him. You can believe me that he said that or not, but
wouldn't your black hat friends that know how Penguin works be able to benefit if they never ran a Penguin refresh again, because they could just create new websites that exploit the Penguin algorithm that haven't run yet, since it's brand new websites, unless you think it's constantly running in the background, not updating good sites, but just impacting negative sites?
Well, if they never run Penguin again, then no, you can't exploit it either positively or negatively. I mean, if they run it so infrequently, not only it's a good strategy for Google and it's bad for everyone else. It's good in the sense that if someone negative SEO exploited Penguin, then yeah, it would take out a bunch of people, but it would create such a PR backlash that'd be a problem, which is what they were scared about, right? You, essentially, or some person like you, some great SEO reporter saying, hey, look at all the sites that got hit from Penguin. Clearly these are false positives, or Danny Sullivan. Clearly he loves these kind of things. Clearly these are false positives. This shouldn't be ranking. This should be ranking. This shouldn't be deranking, that kind of thing. That's what they were worried about, right? That's more or less the substance of what Matt mentioned. So this doesn't really work as a negative SEO exploit from the negative SEOer's perspective because it runs so infrequently. There are much better ways to negative SEO somebody than try to use that. But that is a topic for another day, hypothetically, that I might maybe know about somehow, possibly.
Cool.
So this has been the SEO Friday show on Wednesday. We typically only want to do this for about 20 minutes or so because, you know, really an hour of us debating might get a little tiresome. And yeah, because that's what we're doing. So I hope you enjoyed it. If anybody has any questions or wants to get in contact with either of us, of course, Barry's site is SE Roundtable, and you can contact me. My website is themoralconcept.net. My email is joshbachynski@gmail.com. Barry, you can throw in any other information there you want.
No, I'm all good. I'm just as interested. If there are any topics people want us to address specifically,
this is only 1 week. There's more weeks to do. We need to have more content for the future. And as they say in show business, always leave them hanging. Or was that stripping? I can't remember where I heard that before. Maybe it was my previous job before I did SEO. Maybe that's where I heard it before. Anyway, so this has been the SEO Friday show on Wednesday, and we hope to do this weekly or maybe every couple of weeks or whenever I can twist Barry's arm into doing this. And if you guys have any questions, by all means, contact us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks.
Say bye, Barry.
Thank you.